The rain had been falling since morning, steady, quiet, and endless. The streets glistened under the city lights as expensive cars rolled by, splashing puddles that mirrored the gray sky. Inside a sleek black limousine parked near a crowded intersection sat Ethan Blake, one of the city's youngest and most powerful CEOs. He was 35, sharp in his tailored suit, but behind the calm expression, his eyes were empty. He had everything, wealth, power, fame, but at the end of every day, when the meetings were over and the city lights blurred past his window, there was only silence. Across the street, standing under a small umbrella much too big for her tiny hands, was a little girl, no more than 6. Her red rain boots were splattered with mud, and her school bag hung crooked on her shoulder. Beside her, a woman knelt down, trying to tie the girl's loose shoelace with trembling hands. Her clothes were soaked, and her tired eyes showed she'd had a long day. Her name was Lily, and the woman was her mother, Sophie, a florist who worked from dawn till dusk just to keep the two of them afloat. Ethan's driver noticed them. "Sir, that little one's out there in the rain. Should I offer them a ride?" Ethan looked up briefly from his phone. "No, they'll manage." But something made him glance again. The little girl was staring straight at him through the tinted glass, her big blue eyes full of curiosity and innocence. And when she smiled and waved, something inside him, something long frozen, stirred. A moment later, the light turned red again and traffic halted. The limo was still right beside them when Sophie's umbrella suddenly flipped inside out with the wind. She sighed in frustration, shielding Lily as best as she could. The back window of the limo lowered slowly. Ethan leaned out just enough to speak, his deep voice calm. "You're getting drenched. Take this." He handed her an umbrella, black, sleek, clearly expensive. Sophie hesitated. "Oh, no, sir, I can't accept that." "Please," he interrupted gently. "You'll catch a cold." Their eyes met, his cold gray against her warm brown, and for a brief second the noisy world around them disappeared. "Thank you," she said softly. "You're very kind." Lily peeked around her mother's arm. "You look sad, mister." Ethan blinked, caught off guard. "Do I?" The little girl nodded, serious as a tiny philosopher. "Yeah, my mom looks like that sometimes when she misses my dad." Sophie's face flushed. "Lily," but Ethan didn't seem offended. If anything, his heart tightened. He looked at Sophie and said quietly, "You have a very honest daughter." Days passed. Ethan thought he'd forget about them, but he couldn't. Something about that moment, the rain, the girl's voice, the warmth in the mother's eyes, haunted him. Then fate intervened. A week later, Ethan had a meeting at a luxury hotel. As he exited the lobby, he noticed a small flower stand tucked near the entrance. The same woman, Sophie, was arranging roses in a glass vase. For a second, he thought he must be imagining her. She noticed him too and froze. "Oh, you're the man from the rain." Ethan smiled faintly. "And you're the one who still owes me an umbrella." Sophie laughed softly. "I was planning to return it, but I didn't know where to find you." "You just did," he replied, his tone light but his eyes sincere. Before she could respond, Lily came running out from behind the stand, holding a daisy. "Mommy, I made a flower for the sad man." Sophie's cheeks turned pink. "Lily, hush." But Ethan knelt down, smiling for the first time in a long while. "For me?" The little girl nodded and placed the daisy in his hand. "It'll make you happy. Flowers do that. Mommy says so." Ethan looked at the daisy like it was made of gold. "Then I'll keep it." From that day on, Ethan found excuses to pass by the hotel. Sometimes he bought flowers. Sometimes he just stopped to say hello. Sophie was humble, always kind, never asking for anything. But her laughter, it had a way of softening even his hardest days. And Lily, oh, she was sunshine wrapped in curiosity. She would tug on Ethan's hand and tell him about her school, her drawings, her dreams of owning a big garden full of talking flowers. Every time he left them, the limo felt emptier than before. One evening, rain returned to the city, just like the night they'd first met. Ethan's work had run late, and as his limo turned a corner near the hotel, he saw Sophie again, closed at her flower stall under the drizzle, struggling with boxes. Without thinking, he told his driver, "Stop." He stepped out into the rain, grabbed the nearest box, and said, "You'll ruin these if you leave them out." Sophie stared, startled. "Mr. Blake, you shouldn't your suit." "It's just water," he said quietly. For a moment, their hands brushed as they stacked the last box. Lightning flashed above them, and they both laughed at how ridiculous they looked, soaked and breathless. Then, unexpectedly, Lily's small voice came from behind. "Mommy, can I sit in the big shiny car?" Sophie smiled. "Only if Mr. Blake says it's okay." Ethan opened the door of the limo with a playful bow. "After you, princess." Inside, Lily gasped at the soft leather seats and glowing lights. "It's like a spaceship." Ethan chuckled. "Something like that." She leaned closer to him, whispering conspiratorially, "Do you live in here?" He laughed softly. "No, I just travel in it." Lily frowned in thought. "It looks lonely." Ethan blinked. "Lonely?" She nodded earnestly. "Yeah, it's too big for one person." Sophie shifted uncomfortably. "Lily," but the little girl wasn't done. She climbed onto the seat beside Ethan, looked at him with all the seriousness a 6-year-old could muster, and whispered, "You need a wife and I need a dad." The world seemed to stop. The hum of rain against the windows, the soft glow of the city lights. It all faded. Sophie gasped, "Lily!" But Ethan froze. His heart clenched so hard it hurt. He looked at the little girl, her innocent eyes full of hope, and then at Sophie, whose cheeks had turned crimson. I'm so sorry," she stammered. "She doesn't mean..." But Ethan shook his head slowly, voice breaking just a little. "Maybe she does." Sophie looked at him, eyes wide. He smiled softly, gently tucking a strand of wet hair behind her ear. "You know, she's not wrong. I have everything money can buy. But somehow, the one thing I never had was what really mattered." Sophie's lips parted, but no words came. Lily beamed. "So, does that mean you can come to dinner?" Ethan laughed, really laughed, for the first time in years. Dinner sounds perfect. That night, for the first time, Ethan didn't go home to an empty penthouse. He went to a tiny apartment that smelled of soup, crayons, and flowers. He watched as Sophie hummed in the kitchen and Lily danced in her socks, and he realized this was what peace felt like. Not the silence of a lonely life, but the warmth of laughter filling the room. When Lily finally fell asleep, Sophie turned to Ethan quietly. "You didn't have to come tonight." "I wanted to," he said simply, "because maybe she's right. Maybe I do need a family." Sophie's eyes softened. "And maybe we need someone like you, too." He smiled, reaching for her hand. Outside, the rain finally stopped. And inside the little apartment, 3 hearts, lonely no more, found a home.